Hello, I'm author Tonya Duncan Ellis, and I'm excited to welcome you to another episode of Write This, my author interview show. Hey everybody, this is Tonya Duncan Ellis, author of the Sophie Washington book series, and I'm thrilled to invite you to my author interview show, Write This. Today is going to be super special because we have one of my favorite middle grade authors who will be coming on, Janae Marks, to talk about her book, From the Desk of Zoe Washington, and her newest release, A Soft Place to Land, that comes out September 14th. And Janae thrilled us all a few days ago when she announced that Disney has purchased rights to From the Desk of Zoe Washington. And this has gotten me so excited and just warmed my heart because I love this book and I can't wait to see it on the big screen. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Janae on to tell us a little bit about how she got this movie deal and to share information about her upcoming book. So let me get her on here too. On. See if she gets that. And I just was so excited that she had accepted. Hey Janae, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Fine. I'm so excited that you came onto my show. I was thrilled when you accepted my invitation to come on because your book is one of my favorite middle grade books. So I was like, yay, she's coming. And then to hear your news is even more exciting. I'm just so happy for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited that it finally has been announced. I've been sitting on that news for a while. So
how long has it been? How long did you know?
So I knew that Disney was interested in the book since last summer, since August of last year. So it's been a year, but I didn't know that Kerry Washington was going to be involved until this spring. So that happens later. But yeah, I knew that Disney Channel wanted to pick it up like a year ago. And it just, takes a long time for us to like sign the contract. And then even after that was done, I guess they just have to decide when they want to announce it. And for whatever reason, they decided to do so this past week. I only found out like 2 days before they were going to announce that it might actually get announced. So it was really cool to finally be able to talk about it.
This is just a dream come true. And I want to tell you before I get your story and have you tell your author journey, your book just warmed my heart because I read it at the beginning of 2020, right around the time when Kobe Bryant passed. And I was just so despondent. The weather was gray where I live. I'm serious. And your book just took me I just got into those characters and into the world, and it really warmed my heart.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yes. I just loved it. But can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you decided to become an author? Share a little bit about your author journey.
Yeah, sure. So I did not even realize I wanted to be an author until I was in college, but I always loved reading and writing growing up. I just never really thought, never really made the connection of becoming an author. But when I got to college, that's when I started taking, creative writing classes. And, I was an English major. So that's when it became clear to me that this was something I wanted to pursue. So after college, I actually started a job in publishing. I worked for Simon & Schuster for 7 years. And so while I was working there, I decided to go and get my master's in creative writing. And I ended up going to the New School, which is in New York City, and they had a writing for children program. So I specifically kind of realized that I wanted to write for younger readers. But I did not, I graduated from that program in 2010, and I didn't get an agent until I wrote my 4th manuscript, and that wasn't until the end of 2017. So it was a long journey of writing multiple things. I actually started out writing young adult books, thinking that I wanted to write for that audience, and then with Zoe Washington, I realized that I was more interested in writing middle grade. I kind of switched to writing middle grade with that book, and it like clicked so much more. So I think all along I probably should have been writing middle grade. But yeah, and then so after many years of trying with different books, I finally was able to get an agent with Zoe Washington. And then at the beginning of 2018, I was able to get a book deal with HarperCollins, and the book very excitingly went to auction, which was pretty cool. So multiple publishers were interested, and I ended up landing with Catherine Teagan Books. Yeah, and so then, of course, it comes out in 2020, and then we have the pandemic. But luckily, the book has managed to find, its audience despite, the pandemic, because I know that it was a tough year for a lot of my fellow authors who had books coming out for the first time last year. So
And I remember I saw your book was named Book of the Year in some multiple categories or something like.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of different publications, ended up naming it that, which was very, very validating, especially, after such a long journey to get published, it's kind of goes to show that sometimes if you just keep working hard and you just keep trying, that eventually, things really amazing things can happen. It's like perseverance was like the number one thing I learned. And how it can really work, and I'm so happy that that was the book that came out. When I look back at all the other books that I wrote that didn't make it to publication, I'm so happy that this is the one and not those. So I feel like sometimes if there's any aspiring writers out there, like, you have to just keep going. And sometimes if a book doesn't work out, it might be for the best, and you might end up writing something way better, and you'll look back and be happy that this other book made it instead of that book, so.
Right. Yeah. And this is so inspiring because an author's journey is just arduous at times because
yeah,
on
yeah.
and on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now you have a new book coming out on September 14th. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So A Soft Place to Land, it's not a sequel to Zoe Washington, so it's a totally new story. It tells the story of a 12-year-old girl named Joy, who has unfortunately had to move. Her and her family have had to move out of her childhood home, the house she grew up in, into an apartment because her dad lost his job. And also because of financial troubles, she's no longer able to do her piano lessons like she wanted to do. And her big dream is to be able to eventually compose music for movies. So she really wants to learn the piano. So she's kind of starting off the book in a tough spot, feeling really like, where is my sense of home? I don't have my home anymore. Everything around me is changing and is out of my control. And then when she gets to the building, she makes a new friend who introduces her to this secret hideout, which is this like place in the building that the kids hang out and no adults know about it. And it's kind of a safe space for them. They can, use it as a place to do their favorite activities or just, like unwind or they just need to get away. And there she ends up exchanging messages on the wall where some of the kids are doodling and finds out that there's somebody else kind of going through something and they're exchanging messages anonymously with Joy. And then that person abruptly stops writing back. And so then the book becomes a little bit of a mystery as she's trying to figure out who this person is, all while, dealing with her own, stresses of what's going on with her family and things like that. So it's kind of more of a quieter story compared to Zoe in that sense, because it's not about a big social justice issue, but it still has similar themes of family and friendship, and it does have a mystery in there too. So yeah, right. That's A Soft Place to Land.
Because both your books have those elements of mystery. Do you like mystery, or what inspired you to include that in both books?
Well, with Zoe Washington, the mystery became, that sort of came up very early on in the process of thinking about the book, because what inspired me was, listening to podcasts about, I think like the podcast Serial, if anybody's familiar, Serial. The first season of that podcast told the story of a man who was in prison or is still in prison for murder. And a lot of people believe he's innocent. And so the whole podcast kind of told that story. And, you don't know whether or not he truly is innocent. So that sense of mystery is there. It's a real life situation. But I think with a lot of those true crime stories, people are excited to follow them because partly because of the mystery. You want to know, like, are they innocent? Did they do it? So I think that was like an element that I wanted to put into that book. When Zoe finds out that her birth father might actually be innocent or not, she doesn't know, I knew that would be the part that could be really fun to read, and an adventure that Zoe could go on to try to uncover that and could be riveting, in a kind of a page turner type thing. So that mystery came from the beginning. But with A Soft Place to Land, I actually didn't have the mystery in the first draft. It was just going to be, other storylines. And then when I sent it to my editor, she was the one who was like, we need something else for this book. It's missing something. And then we kind of together came up with the idea of this mystery. So it was kind of interesting how, sometimes things like that come up later. And as a result, I ended up having to rewrite like half of the book for A Soft Place to Land because we decided to add that mystery. But it was worth it because I think now the book does have that. I think just one thing that's nice about mysteries is it really does keep you turning the page. Like you want to know, and so I think for suspense purposes and for keeping kids engaged, mysteries are great. I do enjoy mysteries. I can't say that I like read them a ton, but I really do. Especially in the adult space, like I like reading thrillers. I definitely have like started reading more, I think, middle grade mysteries in general. But yeah, I do enjoy a good mystery.
Okay. Yeah. Now to circle back to from the desk of Zoe Washington movie deal, how did you find out about it, or what were you doing when you found out?
Yeah, so what happened was sometime last year before the summer, my agent, who is Alex Slater at Trident Media Group, what happens is sometimes at the agency, there is a person at the agency that handles film rights. So we, when we sold the book to HarperCollins, we retained the film rights. So HarperCollins did not have the rights to the film. We kept those rights. And so they either have a film agent within the agency take care of that, like try to then shop it out. Or in my case, my agent decided, you know what, I actually think it would be better to work with an outside film agent. So he decided to bring on an agent from ICM, which is like a bigger agency that does a lot of movie stuff. And so he decided to bring on a co-agent. And so that person went ahead and shopped it around to all the different producers and directors. And I don't even know how it works exactly, but I get the sense that it's pretty similar to book publishing, where they must make a list and they send out a pitch, and then they must send out the book too and give them a chance to read the book and decide. And so what happened was in the summer, sometime, around July, early August, a smaller production company actually reached out and said they were interested in it. And I had a phone call with that producer. It was just a producer. So they, and I had a phone call with them and they were very excited. It was great to talk to them. And then what happened was similar to book publishing. If you get one offer, like you can go back to everybody else and say, hey, like they're interested. Does anybody else want to, like say you're interested? And so I think at that point, Disney said, oh, actually we are interested. And so then I ended up having a phone call with them as well, got to compare, and hear like kind of what each of them had in mind in terms of their vision for it. And then ultimately I got to decide between the two. And the reason why we went with Disney is because not only because they're a bigger company, so, there's certain things that they can offer, but also just because like Disney channels in particular, like their whole thing is for targeting the 6 to 14-year-olds kids, and so I felt like they have that machine like ready to go to promote it to the right same kids that I'm hoping to get, eyes on this movie. So I feel like that just made the most sense. The other producer, while great, they were smaller and they also didn't have like a movie studio behind them yet. Like they would have to go out and look for a movie studio. Well, with Disney, they already are a movie studio. So it's like, it just felt like more likely for it to happen. Because another thing that I learned is that sometimes, authors will get their movies picked up by, somebody in the movie industry, but it doesn't actually get made. Like they'll option the rights, but then they don't have funding, or they can't, they can't get a director, or they can't get all the pieces in place to actually make the movie. But in this case with Disney, since they are a movie studio, they have, they have all those, they have a budget, it's like they can make it. So I was like, it felt more likely that the movie would actually get made if we went with them. And then, and then they went on after I agreed to work with them to look for a producer. And so that's when first Effie Brown was brought on. And I was already excited with Effie Brown because she's already a great producer herself. And then, months later, I guess they decided to bring on another co-executive producer with Kerry Washington, which was even more exciting. But yeah, so now I have like multiple producers. But yeah, so that's kind of the story of how it happened.
Will it be on the big screen or Disney Channel, or do you know?
As far as I know now, it's going to be a Disney Channel original movie. So it'll premiere on the Disney Channel and then eventually be on Disney Plus as well. But there is, in the contract language around like if they change their mind, decide to make it a big movie, like there's so I guess they can always change their minds. But as of right now, it's going to be on the Disney Channel, which I'm super happy with because I feel like kids are just, anyway, first of all, we're still in this pandemic. I don't know when this movie will be finished, but people are kind of getting used to just watching movies at home anyway, that I'm like, I'd rather just people have access to it whatever way is easiest. And for it to be on Disney Plus will be pretty cool because my daughter watches Disney Plus and I can be like, look,
I know. And movies like High School Musical and all those other Disney Channel originals.
Exactly. It'll be like in the same like category and range as those. So yeah.
And what did your kids say when they found out, or what did they do?
Well, she's only 6 or about to turn 6. She's a little bit young to quite understand. So, she gets it, but like, I think I explained it. I think she'll be more excited and understand it more when there's like a trailer to show. As of right now, I'm like, it's being made into a movie. And she's like, okay, like, like she doesn't really,
Wow.
But yeah.
She's used to you writing these books and
the cool thing though is that she will be the age of the average, the target reader when hopefully the movie comes out. So I think by that point, it'll be really cool for her and her friends to be able to like be the age that is, she'll be like 8, 9, depending on when it comes out. So it'll be perfect for her to read the book and enjoy the movie with her friends. So that'll be cool.
Now, will you be involved in the screenplay writing or anything like that, or how does that work?
Yeah, they're going to have a different screenwriter, but they did decide to keep me on as a consultant. So they are going to, they are going to, like, I guess, consult with me on certain aspects of it. So I hope that means that, like, you know, from when I spoke to them, it sounds like they really did want me to be involved in some way. Obviously, like, I don't know anything about screenwriting, so I'm perfectly happy to have somebody else adapt it. But hopefully I'll get a chance to read it, you know, and like give my feedback and things like that. But it sounded like they really did want to keep it, you know, the essence of the book, you know, and really cared about keeping both the light elements of it, like the baking and the happy Zoe parts, as well as the reality of like the systemic, you know, issues with prison system, those kinds of things, keeping that balance in there, you know, like sounds like they really did want to keep all of those elements in place, and which is exciting because I know that, you know, sometimes books and movies get made and they aren't the same and readers are disappointed. So
but I'm sure they'll keep that, because that's what I loved about it. Because, like, in the playlist, I loved your playlist and all
I
that.
hope they'll like keep the music as an element too, and like use some of the songs, even if they come up with other songs, just the playlist idea. That would, I can see it having a great soundtrack if they end up doing that.
And you seem to be very musical because you have those musical elements in A Soft Place to Land too.
Yeah, I do really like music. You know, I always was in like the chorus and, you know, singing groups, things like that in high school and college and things like that. So yeah, I definitely enjoy music and that aspect of things. So I think it is fun to incorporate it in to the book. Yeah.
That's what I really loved about Zoe Washington, is that you had that important social issue, but you had it just kid friendly. Yeah. Just a fun book. It was really a fun book, even though it had those important issues.
Yeah, that was important to me because I know that, you know, a lot of authors have talked about, you know, especially authors of color, about how, you know, you want to have like joyful books, not only just hard hitting, depressing stories, you know, like you want to have joyful, you know, like recently the anthology Black Boy Joy just came out, you know, and it's like, that's like what people are starting to want, more joyful stories. And so I feel like I liked the idea of this book being able to talk about some tough things and have, you know, mention of racism and things in it, but also be a joyful story, like you said. So that was important to me. So I think that's why I wanted to make her a baker, and why I focused on her and Marcus having, you know, a good relationship as they're getting to know each other, sharing music, talking about baking and cooking, you know, having a positive interaction with one another.
Right. Now, I know you've got so much going on right now. Any other projects in the work or things you'd like to do in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on another middle grade that I can't talk about yet, but hopefully soon. And then, yeah, I mean, I hope to keep doing this, you know, keep writing more books. And, you know, as things start opening up a little bit more, like hope that I'll get a chance to do more in-person things. Cause before you know, my book came out and I had like maybe 2 months before the pandemic started. So I got to do some in-person stuff, and now everything's been kind of virtual, which is fine. But yeah, like I'm looking forward to long-term being able to meet more readers in person and getting a chance to connect with more people, not just on a screen, but yeah.
Right. Because look how you blew up during the pandemic. So
I know, definitely not expected at all, but very exciting for sure.
And would you like to do a cameo role in your movie?
Oh, would I like to do cameo? That would be really cool. I actually hadn't even thought about that, but it's true. Like sometimes you do see like the author. I've seen a couple movies where the author will make a little cameo. That would be really fun. Maybe I could be like a random student, like when they go visit Harvard Square or something, or like, I don't know. That'd be fun.
Now, any advice you could give to aspiring authors? We have a lot of authors who tune in who want to make a career of it. What would you advise them to do?
Yeah, I mean, well, number one, definitely keep going. You know, I mentioned earlier that my journey was really long. You know, it took like a decade essentially for me to get a book published from when I really started doing it seriously. And so it's not uncommon for it to take a long time. I talk about this in my school visits, how people think like success is a straight line, but really it's like more of a squiggly line. And so you can still get to where your endpoint is, like getting a book deal, but that squiggly line means you might experience rejection along the way. You might find out, you know, realize that your book isn't the right story and decide to put it aside. Like I did that. You might get so many no's, you know, or you might even get close and then something doesn't work out at the last minute. You know, things like that will happen, and you just have to learn to keep going, keep writing, keep trying to improve your craft. You know, I spent a lot of time going to conferences or reading craft books or just getting feedback from other writers, like sending my work to be critiqued, you know, obviously in my MFA program, but also, you know, just fellow people I met throughout the years that are also trying to be published. We would send each other our work. Just whatever you can do to just keep making your writing better, because that's kind of the one thing. Ooh, my phone is about to fall over. That's the one thing that you have control over, you know, is the writing. It's like you can't control the market. You have little control over whether an agent is going to say yes or no to you, or the book publisher is going to say yes or no, but you do have control over your writing. And so that's kind of like the one thing. And then also read a lot, because you can learn so much about storytelling through reading. And it's really helpful to read what's coming out now, you know, as an author, if you want to be published, you know, because you want to know what's going on now. What are people liking now? Not just the classics or older books, but like books that are coming out in the last couple years, you know, in your genre and even outside your genre, just because you can learn something even reading outside of your category, you know? So yeah, I would say read a lot, write as much as you can, just keep trying, and then just don't give up. Unless you truly decide this is not for you, just keep going, because it can take a long time. It's so normal. I mean, a lot of my other author friends have also had long journeys, and it's so normal, and it's a lot of times it's about luck too. It's not even about timing and luck. It's not even always about talent, you know. Sometimes it's just about having the right book at the right time, you know. So
right. Yeah. And can you repeat again, how long did it take you to get your book deal from when the time you queried with Zoe Washington?
Okay, so that one, I started writing it in the spring of 2016, and I started querying it sometime in early 2017. And I actually ended up getting, as I was setting it out and getting some requests, I also got a revise and resubmit, which basically means that an agent read it, thought it was good, but had some suggestions for changes and said, you know, it's a no for now, but if you were to make these changes and I like it, then I would maybe say yes. And so I decided to actually take this agent's suggestions because they were really good. And so what I did was I spent a few more months in 2017 revising. And then I said, when I got, I had actually multiple agents interested in it. So I got multiple offers. So it, you know, so it was off and on querying for like almost a year, but off and on, because I really did pause to and if you're talking about numbers, I think I might have, I mean, I didn't actually send that many queries for this one. I think I maybe sent like 10 to 15 queries. In the past, with my previous book that I queried, you know, I sent like 75 queries and every single one of them was a no. You know, it's like, so that's very normal for you to like get very far into your querying journey and have them all be no's. And then next thing you know, you might have a book that gets very few no's. You know, it depends on the story. And that's why I said it's about timing and luck. And if you happen to write the right story that people are looking for, you hit like a chord, you know? So yeah, so that's why I just continue to say, do not give up if you are querying and one book doesn't work out. Just keep trying with the next book, you know, because it really, you never know what could happen. And the only difference between somebody who's published and unpublished is that the unpublished person gave up eventually, you know. It's like they just didn't keep trying. So
right. Well, I so appreciate all the information you've shared with us, your insights, and this encouragement for those who are out trying to write, because you look at her and say, oh, she's done this, but she's a 10-year overnight success. She's
I know,
and
that's the other thing too. There's another graphic that you can find online where it's like an iceberg, and it's like you see the tip of the iceberg, you see the book deal, the movie deal, all this stuff, but you don't see like what came below the iceberg. Like what's below the surface is all of the hard work, all of the years of rejection, all of the times where I felt like giving up and I chose not to, you know. It's like all of that is below, you know, like the iceberg. You don't see that because again, like on social media, you're only really posting, most of the time, you're only posting the good news. I feel like I definitely appreciate when authors are transparent and share those moments of like vulnerability when things are not going so great, because then you see like, oh, it's not just me. Like I'm not the only one experiencing hard times in trying to be published. But for the most part, everybody's just posting the good stuff. So you don't know. And so that's why it's good to also make other friends with other writers, because then you know that you're not the only one who's also experiencing those struggles. So.
Right. Well, can you share again how we can connect with you and when your new book's coming out, name of that?
Sure. Yeah. So you can find me here on Instagram and on Twitter at Janae Marks Books. My website is janaemarks.com. If you did like Zoe Washington, And you're interested in the playlist is on my website, as well as the recipe that Zoe makes for cupcakes is on my website as well. And there's some teacher guides for Zoe, and there's going to be a teacher guide uploaded there soon for A Soft Place to Land. And then A Soft Place to Land comes out on September 14th. Yeah. It's available for pre-order now, pretty much wherever books are sold. And so that's what's coming up. And if you follow me, as soon as I know more information that I can share about the movie, I will share it. But I'm guessing for now, there might just be like a waiting period where we just don't hear anything. But yeah, I'm very excited to share more as soon as I know more.
Okay. Well, many congratulations to you, Janae, and thank you again for coming on to write this. And I wish you the best of luck. I can't wait to grab your new book and watch your movie when it comes out.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.